Hello and welcome to the Snakebite, our weekly sports show that airs every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Alongside Kenzie Council, I'm John Christovich, and here's what the Mocs have been up to since we last saw you.
We start this week with volleyball news. The team fell to 6-4 after dropping a pair of conference matches on the road against Lynn and Palm Beach Atlantic. Over the weekend, the typical team leaders continued to keep Florida Southern afloat. Sophomore Mackenzie Peterman had 22 kills over the two-game span, while Beatrice Formalon notched a total of 19 digs. Despite the pair of losses, the Mocs are still ranked 5th in the conference. Last night, Florida Southern took on Tampa, but that game didn't finish prior to our production time. For results on that game, check out fscmocs.com.
And Kenzie, despite the team being now on a 3-game losing streak, they are still in decent position with a lot of volleyball left to play. Last week, the SSC announced that there would be no postseason conference tournament. Instead, the regular season champion will earn the conference's automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. The Mocs sit behind Barry, Embry-Riddle, Tampa, and Nova Southeastern right now in the SSC, but they'll get the chance to play each of those teams at least once before the season is over. After playing the number 8th ranked Spartans last night, the team gets to battle 20th ranked Nova Southeastern this Saturday at home.
The men's golf team competed at the Shark Invitational hosted by Nova Southeastern this week. After the first day of competition, the Mocs were ranked 3rd out of 12 teams in action. Redshirt freshman Adam Alvarez led the Mocs through day 1, placing 5th overall among individual competitors. For updated results on day 2 of that tournament, you can check fscmocs.com.
Last week, the women's team competed against 18 other teams at the Savannah Lakes Invitational in McCormick, South Carolina. After day 1, the team was ranked 8th, but unfortunately finished in 15th place as a team due to injury. Despite the team setbacks, senior Elizabeth Harding impressed individually, earning 19th place over the span of the 2-day tournament. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to sit down with Harding to discuss her top 20 finish and the start of her team's season so far. So Elizabeth, first, thank you for being here with us today, and talk to me. You, last week, a top 20 finish in McCormick. Aside from your team's final standings, how does it feel for you to be able to finish in the top 20?
Overall, it feels pretty great. It has been my best finish so far, and I'm glad to see myself improve so much and that my hard work over the past summer and past year has paid off.
And it seems like so far this season, it's either you, Natalie, or Lauren leading the way. What does it mean for you to have the ability to rely on one of your teammates in case you don't have such a solid performance?
It's really nice. The last tournament, I didn't feel that much pressure because I knew like Natalie or Lauren or one of our 4 or 5 players would really step up and come to the plate with some good scores, and so it is nice relying on them, but also knowing I can rely on myself for stepping up and having good scores too, so that's been really nice.
Now, the thing about golf is there's a lot of travel. We talked about earlier last week, South Carolina, next week it'll be Georgia, and then there's always traveling around Florida. What does traveling look like, with your team, and how has that affected your bond with them?
Overall, travel has been really rigorous. We've driven 8 hours to our last tournament. We're going to drive 8 hours again to our next tournament in North Georgia. But team bonding wise, it's benefited us a lot. We got to stay in some cabins in South Carolina. That was really cool. We made s'mores with the team. So it's been a fun experience overall. Even if the scores don't produce themselves, it's still a really fun time.
Right. So you play basically a new course every other week or so. Do you have a favorite of all of them?
Favorite course? I mean, they're all just different in their own way. I'd say that the last course I played was probably my favorite, even though it's only our second course, because it reminded me a lot of my courses I played back home in Michigan. It was really hilly, a lot of trees, not much water, so it was nice to be there.
So you've got a few more tournaments on the schedule for the fall at least. Now, what are you doing as a team and as an individual to keep your focus here for the next couple months?
Yeah, keeping focus is really key for success. So usually coming back from a tournament, we go over what our strengths were, what our weaknesses were. Like yesterday, we went out on the course and practiced shorter distances because that was our struggle at the last tournament. But individually, I'll get a swing lesson. I'll think about mentally, was the pressure too much or too little? And I put myself in pressure situations just in practice to try to get back and understand what I need to improve on.
So with women's golf, you're obviously playing now as early as August, September, October, but you're also playing all the way back in April. So how does the team mentality change as the year goes on?
I'd say it should stay pretty much the same because every tournament matters. in the same way. Obviously, the tournament's in the spring, there's regionals and conferences, there's nationals, so that's more weight to it, but overall you should practice and prepare the same as if it is nationals every time.
Again, that's Elizabeth Harding, senior on the women's golf team, which is set to compete again in 2 weeks at the Achasta Golf Club in Dahlonega, Georgia. In other athletics news, both the men's and women's soccer teams competed this week.
That's right, John. The men's soccer team faced another tough opponent this week, this time squaring off against the number 6th ranked Lynn University Fighting Knights. Florida Southern held off the Fighting Knights for the majority of the game, ultimately losing on a Lynn goal in the 59th minute. The SSC foe has now won 7 consecutive games, including 2 against Florida Southern during that stretch. Goalkeeper Mars Goye made 3 saves in the loss. The team will return to competition tonight as they take the 11th ranked Tampa Spartans on the road.
The women's team picked up a big-time victory over Lynn on Wednesday night at home, snapping a 4-game losing streak in impressive fashion with the conference win. Senior Tatum Albrecht scored her first goal of the season to break a 1-1 draw in the 48th minute, while Megan Criney and Elena Burkich each picked up their second goal of the season in the win. The team is back in action tonight as they take on the Tampa Spartans, who are currently ranked 2nd in the SSC.
Only some members of the women's cross-country team competed at the Division II National Preview hosted by St. Leo on Saturday morning. Traditional team leaders such as Ellie Fluman, Sarah Zamot, and Emma Musante all sat out the race in favor of extra rest ahead of this weekend's competition. Their absence did shine the spotlight on some of the Mocs' younger racers, including Janiyah Johnson and Kaylee Padar, who finished 41st and 47th respectively. This weekend, the team will travel to Huntsville, Alabama to compete at the UAH Invitational.
It was much of the same on the men's side as familiar faces such as Mason Jones, Josh Wagner, and Mitch Kozik, among others, all sat out of the race at St. Leo. This time around, sophomore Noah Ellenbach and freshman Adam Barries were the leaders of the pack as they finished in 64th and 70th respectively. The men, who are ranked 29th in the nation, are also headed to Huntsville this Saturday for the Invitational. Last week, the Sunshine State Conference announced all of the conference playoff schedules and locations for the 2021 sports, including that the cross-country championship race will be hosted by Florida Southern and will take place on October 23rd. Now for the rest of the sports, we'll go through the list. Volleyball, no conference tournament this year, which means that one regular season champion will earn the NCAA bid. Now for the Mocs, that means that they're going to need to really perform well against some of the better teams such as Barry, Tampa, and PBA. For men's and women's soccer, they get it a little bit easier. A traditional 8-team playoff format will be held at the end of the season. The higher seed will host in traditional format. Men's and women's swimming, although it won't take place until next February, will be hosted in Clearwater by the Tampa Spartans. And for men's and women's basketball, around the same time, we'll see a traditional 8-team format. We know both of our teams are very good. They ran to the tournament late last year, so we're expecting big things from them. Women's golf will be hosted by Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona, while the men's golf team here at Florida Southern will get to host this year's tournament at the Grasslands Golf and Country Club. Women's and men's tennis, although this won't be for a while, hosted by Barry University at the IMG Academy. And for our final spring sports, women's and men's lacrosse, both of those teams tend to give others fits in the playoffs. It'll be a traditional playoff format with the higher seed hosting. Softball and baseball, same as volleyball. No conference tournament this year, but expect to see some good battles, especially between the Mocs and the Tampa Spartans. For the rest of the NCAAs, we'll get you more info on those qualifications as it becomes available.
In other athletics news, everyone's favorite team returned to play on Friday night at the Lakeland Ice Arena as the men's ice hockey team fell 12-2 against the University of Miami Hurricanes. Despite the loss, the atmosphere was electric, and fans will be happy to hear that the team is set to return to play again this Friday against the University of Tampa at the Lakeland Ice Arena at 7:45 p.m.
This week in Mocs history, on October 5th, 1991, Becky Thyssen recorded a school record 40 total kills in a 5-set victory over the University of South Florida. That team would go on to win the NCAA South Regional Championship, and Thyssen earned All-America honors that year. Thyssen finished her collegiate career with the Mocs in 1991 as a member of the 1,000 Kill and 1,000 Dig Club.
That brings us to our Play of the Week segment, coming to you from Tatum Albrecht on the women's soccer team. Albrecht scored the game-winning goal in the 48th minute of Saturday's contest, giving the Mocs a victory over conference rival Lynn and snapping a 4-game losing streak. That's all we got for you this week on the Snakebite. I'm Kenzie Council. He's John Christovich. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 1.